I have 1 week to make a map for my D&D game. So, the stars aligned and all my players are going to be in the same city. We get to play in person about once a year, so this is a very special occasion. The game takes place in my homebrew world, Madala. It's a sci-fi fantasy setting inspired by She-Ra and Breath of the Wild. The main antagonist of the world is an organization called the Network. The players are headed into the Network hub for the first time, and I think that deserves some awesome terrain. Could I simply throw down some scatter terrain and paint up a cool boss mini? Yes, but I'm crazy. I want to make a multi-leveled, highly detailed sci-fi battle map instead. Do I have a lot of money to spend on this project? Absolutely not. Most of this project is going to be built with trash I found on the street, things I thrifted, or things I bought at the dollar store. And to make things even more difficult, I have to keep this whole project hidden from my partner and our friend who's going to be staying with us. Hence why I'm in the hallway. I want this encounter to be a little different. The goal will not be to win, but to get to the top of a tower. Atop the tower is a power source. If they can remove the power source, they win. They get a cool piece of ancient technology, and the network loses power to a huge section of their empire. I'm breaking this map down into 2 sections, the tower and the lab. The tower should look like a nonsense nuclear reactor attached to a stack of buildings where the engineers can work, and the lab will look like a lab. It'll have multiple points of entry. The 2 sections will be connected by a bridge. There's no more time to explain, I just need to get started. Let's go! I'm starting out with a sketch on some 1-inch graph paper. I bought this at Staples and it's what I would normally use to draw my battle maps. Once I got my supervisor's approval, I brought the plans over to my crafting table. The design of the lab just so happened to fit perfectly on this clipboard I bought from the dollar store. I'll be using this as a base. I wanted to give the lab a tiled floor which I would make out of foam board. I started with a test piece and I liked how it looked, so I started on the real thing, carefully scoring it with a dull knife and then deepening the groove with a pencil. This Mega Blocks piece was a big part of the inspiration for this build. I thought it would be cool to make a working mechanical drawbridge, so let's make that. The structure of the bridge is made of an old laundry basket that I cut up into craftable sized pieces. I glued 2 pieces together to get the length that I needed, then reinforced the structure with some square dowels from the dollar store. Next, I cut up some plastic sprues to use as railings. I reinforced the railings with stir stick cross braces, then added some drywall mesh to look like metal grating. Finally, I topped the railings with more plastic sprues, then cleaned up the messy parts with some card and rhinestone rivets. That took way too long. Gotta go faster. The bridge was looking good, so I attached it to the Mega Blocks bit with some super glue and baking soda. But what am I going to attach the bridge to? These coffee cans are extremely sturdy and make for great support structures. I did a hot glue test fit to see if the cans would hold the weight of the bridge, and success! So I properly glued them in place. I attached a balsa wood walkway to the 2 cans, and using my favorite tool, an old iron, held it all in place while it dried. The cans are purely structural, so I quickly cut out some mounting board for the walls. Wow, this part is going a lot faster. God, I cut myself. Dang it! Well, blood is just free weathering. Once the walls were done, I began on the stairs. Off camera, I cut out some stair frames with dollar store craft wood. The steps are made with mounting board. Man, I hate stairs. Gluing these together took forever, they were so wobbly, and truly the most difficult part of this build. I think I'm just going to buy stairs next time. One of my best trash finds was this old purple shovel. I thought the handle looked like sci-fi pillars, so that's what they're gonna be. I cut them to shape with a saw, and then added some wires for detail. And next I'm gonna need, this. I took apart this pencil holder to use as grading detail. This added some texture variation, but was also a sturdier material to work with than drywall mesh. I carefully cut out a frame using more mounting board and glued those together to make a landing area. Then I glued the stairs I made earlier to the landing, and finally attached the purple pillars in place. Now it's time to build the rest of the lab structure using foam core board. I probably should have beveled these edges, but I knew I was going to cover them with greeblies later, so I let myself be a little sloppy. Sorry, Daddy Stetson.
You are no son of mine.
Once I knew it all fit together, I immediately took it apart. I worked with the walls individually, adding details that would be hard to add once assembled, like this tool thingy. I cut out a space for this bit, then added some paper straws wrapped in packing tape to look like pipes, and then finally added some wires to look like wires. We'll get back to these walls later though. Finishing up the structure, I made another walkway using the same method as before, and then glued that in place. Next, I added a piece of a toy gun I found on the ground, then attached that whole section in place. Off camera, I made this cute little sci-fi door out of cardboard, glued that in, and finally attached the stairs and landing in place. To add some nonsense lab details, I attached an elbow pipe piece to some cool looking plastic and then attached that to the water gun wall. Next, I took a piece of an old cassette tape I found outside and attached that in the corner for some more visual interest. This piece of garbage plastic looked like an air vent to me, so that's what it is. And sci-fi buildings always have random squares on the walls, so I cut some out of card and glued them wherever it looked a little boring. Scratch Bashing's bit will make a perfect fan to cool down all the hot science going on in here, and some rhinestone rivets on a zip tie will hide my bad seams. I made this big pipe out of a pipe, a tinfoil roll wrapped in packing tape, card and zip ties for details, and then a liquor bottle to cap it off. I adhered that in place and then attached another offshoot pipe, because science. This plastic sprue made a great frame for this cool looking motor thing I found, but the MVP for cheap materials has to go to hair ties. They are super easy to work with, they take glue super well, and they make great coiled cable details. The floor was looking a bit boring, so I cut out a tile and filled it with a piece of a robotics toy that I bought from a thrift store. Okay, so the lab is looking okay, but I haven't started on the other half of the project. I'm gonna start that now, and I'm gonna add some details later. I made the base of the tower using 4 pill bottles. I covered the coiled top with some minty fresh cardboard and some riveted zip ties. I tried using hot glue to attach the bottles, but they quickly began to melt, so I switched to super glue instead. I found this choice trash outside. This filter will make an excellent sci-fi walkway. I cut it to shape using my trusty blue knife, then attached a wooden dowel to add some detail to the boring side. Then I glued a piece of card to mount the next building to, and attached the bottles to the bottom. This gift box was the perfect size, but it was a bit boring, so I made a frame out of some large square dowels and then attached some slanted pieces of cardboard to make it look a bit more sci-fi. I was a little sloppy with this step, so I used some modeling paste to hide my mistakes. For the top of the building, I used this round hot chocolate container. I closed off the top with a metal lid, and then finished it off with a cardboard door and a Mega Bloks ladder. I made another walkway using the same method as before, glued all these pieces together, and then added one more set of super annoying stairs. Okay, so I normally do my crafting in the living room, which has been difficult. But my friend arrived a day earlier than I expected, so the living room is no longer an option. So I'm gonna move all my stuff into the front hall here and finish the rest of the project. To finish off the structure of the tower, I made a ramp out of an old fly swatter and some cardboard. I then decided this project wasn't extra enough, so I got out a string of LED lights. Using trusty blue, I cut the back off a water gun tank. This will hold the LEDs and give them a nice sci-fi green glow. I'm not sure what this piece of trash is, but it makes for a cool tower topper. I attached the now green LEDs to the cool white piece of trash using a different piece of metal trash. And this piece from the bubble fan from my first video will make a perfect plasma coil. I tried a couple configurations of trash until I was happy with the silhouette, and then glued them all together. Then I decided that rather than try and hide it, I'll use the LED switch as more surface detail. I have been waiting for this lighter to run out of juice so that I could use it for crafting. This squirmy bit will make a perfect energy-sucking coil. I attached one end of the coil to the top of the tower, capped the other half, and then attached it to the base of the tower. I attached this bigger piece of robotics toy to the side of this building to add some more visual interest. Then I made a fly swatter walkway to travel between the two towers, and finally attached them in place with a plastic cube. I bought a pack of shore troopers to use as generic soldiers, and since I have no interest in playing Star Wars Legion, I used a bunch of stuff from the box as greeblies. These robotics toys were really a time saver when it came to making machines. I glued this chunky bit from a cord to a metal washer thing, and then attached that to some more elbow pipes. Put that onto a robotics toy, and boom, you got yourself a machine. Then I went into my backyard, and I snipped some chicken wire from a gap in the fence to use as slick metal railings. And with that, we're down to the final greeblies. This pump from a toy gun will make an excellent girder. I picked up this trick from Eric's Hobby Workshop. Then I used some beads and some wooden skewers from the dollar store to make some smaller pipe details. Here's some guitar string as wiring. Picked this up from Boyle Eye Hobby Time. Then I cut out a section of the floor to add some exposed pipe details. These are just different sized wooden dowels. Here I'm just adding more garbage greeblies wherever there's space. And to hide the shame of using Mega Blocks in a build, I covered the Mega Block details with some cards, a battery, and some fly swatter grating. Another floor detail was added by gluing this metal craft ring to a washer and then covering it with some more pencil case grating. Another choice piece of trash. I cut this up and used it anywhere I needed heavy-duty railings. I'm still a novice at identifying trash. Do you know what these are? They make for great pipe details. Here's some more plastic gun bits. And then I added some garden wire to break up the smooth water gun spout. More bead skewer pipes, and finally some Legion cards all over the place to look like metal plating. I could very easily spend weeks detailing this project, but I just need to call it, so I'm going to take it outside to prime. I knew I didn't have enough time to do a full paint job on this thing. I gave myself an hour to highlight some of the details because the game was the next day and I still hadn't planned the session. I did a silver dry brush over most of the map, and then a kind of industrial army green over some of the larger surfaces. I added a little bit of rust and grime, but then I called it done. And with that, it's time for the reveal. I really love how this turned out. I think my players liked it too. I really like the final result, but let me know if you'd like to see me do a full paint job on this thing. I think I'm going to take this down to my local game store and see if I can't trade it for some minis. I'd rather see it get used than sit up on my shelf. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing. Let me know what you'd like to see me make next time. I'm gonna go shave. Bye!